Hey coaches, Coach Simpson. Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is your first time here. I'm Coach Kenny Simpson. I've got a lot of different materials available. So you got this YouTube channel. You can kind of search through and find different things, mainly in the world that I live in, which is the gun TRPO world on offense, 3-4 defense, and then of course I've got a lot of head coaching materials as well. If you want to find more in-depth material, you can go to my website, fbcoachsimpson.com, or go to CoachTube. You can search me up there. There's other materials that I have available. So, been talking about setting up your offense. You can do the same thing on defense. We're focusing on the offensive side of the ball this week. Talking about when you pick a style of offense, you need to ask this question: what's right for me? And mainly that me is my kids. Okay, what can they do? What can my athletes do? So we talked about, should we be in the shotgun or under center? The good and the bad on both. We talked about RPO and play action, the good and the bad on both. We talked about zone or gap scheme, the good and the bad on both, and which one is better for probably you. I'm not in your shoes, so if you have questions you'd like to reach out to me with specific questions, feel free to do so. fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com. I'm going to combine these two because I think these two are the other questions you need to look at when you're putting an offense in. Do we want to be more of a heavy personnel package team? That's what I have lived in for the last multiple years. Cersei next year is probably going to be more in that world. And so for me, now I'll be living in both, and I have run both. Okay, 10 personnel for me is basically just a personnel packages. 10 personnel would be 4 wide receivers, 4 athletes. You can move them around, do different formations with them, or 21 personnel, or maybe even like a 12 personnel, whatever you want to call it. Starting to get into, we're going to add a lot of tight ends, we're going to add a lot of H-backs. That's the difference. Okay. When you decide on what you're going to do, the question should always be, what kind of athletes do I have? What gives us the advantage? You know, when I came in from one school to a new school, I was open to looking at whatever we could do, because the goal is to put your best athletes on the field, to give yourself the best chance. So questions you need to ask when you get in this world are pretty simple in my opinion. 10 personnel, if a team goes man zero, and they've got pretty good athletes, you've got to look in the mirror and realistically say, can we be successful? If you cannot be successful, you're going to see man zero for 10 weeks. Because that's what I would do to stop 10 personnel if I didn't think they could handle that. Okay? So it's a question you need to ask. What are we going to do when they put more guys in the box and we can block and essentially go man-to-man out in space? If I feel I've got pretty good answers for that, then 10 personnel is on the table. Okay? If 21 personnel, you look at that and you kind of go, okay, maybe we got a lot of H-back type guys. I'll give you a good example. I came from Southside Batesville. We had a whole lot of these 195 to 210 pound good looking kids that were physical. They could catch, you know, they could run a little bit, but they probably weren't a guy you would want to put out in space against a corner or a safety. Probably wasn't going to be a great matchup for them. So that led us into, well, we're going to get into this look. We're going to get into that. That's our best guys we got on the field. Can we take them and spread them out? Yeah, we can. Okay, but we're going to live kind of in that condensed world. Advantages and disadvantages of both. 21 personnel, obviously. Advantages are you ought to be able to pound the ball. I mean, you better be able to. You got more physical kids on the field, hopefully. Defenses don't see this as often, although it is becoming more and more popular. And so a lot of times that gives you an advantage over, say, a team that's built to stop the teams that throw the ball all over the field. 10 personnel, advantage obviously, you got athletes out there, a chance for explosive plays. And so there's a lot of advantage you can do with fast kids. Okay. The next question you're going to ask is fast or multiple. So you kind of figure this one out. All right, we're going to live in this personnel package mainly. We're going to maybe play with this one. So are we going to be super fast? Or are we going to be multiple? Now I like to try to have the ability to do both, but generally you're going to need to pick your philosophy early on of, are we going to be a fast moving team? If you are, there's good and bad. The good is, you know, obviously there's advantages that are created by going fast. You know, give the defense time to work exotic blitzes. You make them kind of vanilla. Okay, it's hard for them to run subs on the field. So there's a lot of good advantages to going fast. The disadvantages to going fast are, if you don't move the ball, you're going to give them the ball back real quick. You're going to up the amount of possessions in a game. So you need to feel like, okay, we want that. That's something that benefits us. And you cannot do a lot of shifts, trades, motions to gain advantages on a board. I mean, that's just, if you're a guy that likes to move, trade, check with me and get a guy here, get a guy there, get a guy there, you're going to be limited if you're going to be going up tempo. Okay? Multiple. You want to be multiple? Here's the disadvantage of being multiple. How are you going to practice all of that? You got to be very, very, very efficient with making sure you're getting multiple reps with multiple kids now and multiple looks. How expensive, and do you have the terminology ability to move kids around? Just real quick plug here, if you want that stuff, you can go to my playbook, because that's the world we live in, where we can move and shift and trade. So if you want that, I've got a playbook, fbcoachsimpson.com, you can go get. That's the disadvantages to it. The advantages, which are what I live in, are now we can create matchups. If we're multiple in personnel packages, if we're multiple in shifts and trades, if I do it right, we should be able to at least give our kids a good chance by getting the best matchup. Whether that's a matchup with numbers, we have more than they do, whether that's a matchup in personnel, I can get my guy on that guy. Whatever it is, being multiple, that's the advantage. Disadvantage to that, again, is that's a lot of practice time, a lot of time you're spending when you could be, if you're going fast or being a little more simple, you could be getting a lot more reps. And so it's something you need to think about as a coach. There's no right or wrong answer. You see teams win all the time in all of these worlds. Okay? So don't think that I'm telling you you need to do this to win. What you need to do is think about what's right for you and what's right for your kids. If you'd like to reach out for any questions, my email is fbcoachsimpson@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out. You've got a lot of material on this YouTube station. And I've got a lot of materials on there if you want to get more specific into what I do. I've got some templates on there that'll kind of help you think through this stuff, where it'll put a lot of the if-thens and make you kind of work through all this process so you can figure out what's right for you. It's over in the materials section on my website. Appreciate your time. If you haven't done so, I'd appreciate if you'd like and subscribe to this channel. Next week will be a whole different theme. I'm looking forward to it.